What if one river caused more suffering, death, and fear than entire armies? A river so powerful that ancient people believed gods lived inside its waters. A river that destroyed cities, spread deadly diseases, swallowed villages overnight, and changed the course of human history forever. For thousands of years, humanity has depended on rivers to survive. They gave us food, water, and a civilization itself. But one river became something else entirely. A place of death, a place where millions suffered, a place feared by kings, warriors, and ordinary people alike. And even today, scientists still debate how one river could shape human destiny on such a terrifying scale. Tonight, we uncover the dark truth behind the river of death. And by the end of this documentary, you may never look at rivers the same way again. Thousands of years ago, humanity gathered around rivers. Without rivers, civilizations could not survive. The ancient Egyptians depended on the Nile. Mesopotamia rose between the Tigris and Euphrates. The Indus Valley civilization flourished near the Indus River. And in every corner of the ancient world, rivers were not just water sources. They were life itself. But rivers also carried destruction. Floods could erase entire cities in a single night. Disease spread through contaminated water. And when rivers changed direction, civilizations collapsed without warning. Entire cultures vanished, leaving only ruins buried under soil and silence. Yet among all rivers in history, one became especially feared: the Yellow River of China, known today as one of the deadliest rivers ever recorded. For centuries, people called it the River of Sorrow, and sometimes the River of Death. At first glance, the Yellow River looked harmless, even beautiful. Stretching over 5,000 kilometers across China, it brought water to millions. It carved fertile plains, supported agriculture, and helped shape early Chinese civilization. But hidden inside its waters was a deadly secret. The river carried enormous amounts of yellow-colored silt, more than almost any river on Earth. This made the river unstable. Every year, sediment built higher and higher along the riverbed. Layer upon layer of mud, sand, and debris slowly raised the river itself, until something unnatural happened. The river began to rise above the land. Imagine standing in a village and looking up at a river flowing higher than your roof. A wall of water suspended above human life, like a giant water bomb held together by fragile earth. And nature does not hold pressure forever. Eventually, it explodes. Again and again throughout history, the Yellow River burst through its banks with terrifying force. Massive floods erased entire regions. Families disappeared overnight. Children were swept away in violent currents. Fields turned into endless lakes of mud, debris, and death. And because ancient civilizations had no warning systems, no forecasting, and no satellites, most people never saw it coming. Historians believe the Yellow River caused some of the deadliest natural disasters in human history. One of the most catastrophic floods occurred in 1887. When the river overflowed after heavy rains, entire provinces were submerged. An estimated 900,000 to 2 million people died. Think about that for a moment. A disaster so large it erased entire populations. Villages disappeared beneath water and mud. Bodies floated for miles downstream. Survivors climbed onto rooftops, trees, anything they could find, waiting for rescue that never came. But survival was only the beginning of suffering. After the flood came famine. Crops were destroyed. Livestock drowned. Food supply collapsed completely. Then came disease. Contaminated water spread cholera, dysentery, and infections across entire regions. People who survived the flood often died weeks later from hunger or illness. It was a slow, silent continuation of the disaster, and the river did not stop. Another catastrophic flood struck in 1931. This time, the destruction was even worse. Rivers overflowed across multiple regions simultaneously. Lakes expanded beyond control. Entire cities were submerged for months. Historians estimate anywhere from 1 million to possibly 4 million deaths when flooding, famine, and disease are combined. For a million human lives. Not from war, not from invasion, but from water. And the terrifying part? Many of these deaths were not instant. People survived the initial flooding only to suffer slowly afterward. Starvation, infection, exposure, despair. Entire generations were wiped out, not in moments, but over time. Ancient people did not understand sediment engineering or river dynamics, so they searched for meaning elsewhere. Many believed the river was cursed. Some thought angry spirits lived beneath the water. Others believed it was punishment from heaven itself. In Chinese mythology and folklore, water was often tied to divine judgment. So when entire cities disappeared beneath floods, it felt supernatural. Even emperors feared the Yellow River. Because in ancient China, controlling floods was not just engineering. It was political survival. If an emperor failed to control the river, it was believed he had lost the mandate of heaven, meaning the gods no longer supported his rule. A river could destroy a dynasty. That is how powerful it was. Entire governments rose and fell based on whether the river behaved. For centuries, humans tried to control it. Walls were built along its banks. Dikes reinforced again and again. Thousands of laborers worked endlessly to hold back nature. But the river always found a way. Sometimes it broke through defenses. Sometimes it changed direction entirely. And when it shifted course, the consequences were unimaginable. Entire cities that once depended on the river were left dry and lifeless. Meanwhile, new regions suddenly became flood zones. Trade routes collapsed. Farming systems failed. Economic structures disintegrated overnight. Imagine waking up and discovering that the river your civilization depended on had simply moved. Not slightly, but by hundreds of kilometers. This happened multiple times in history. The Yellow River has changed its course dramatically over centuries, rewriting maps and reshaping human settlement patterns again and again. But the darkest chapter in its history came during war. In 1938, during the Second Sino-Japanese War, Chinese forces faced an impossible decision. To slow invading armies, they deliberately destroyed dikes along the Yellow River. It was a military strategy, a flood used as a weapon. What followed was catastrophic. Entire regions were submerged in uncontrolled flooding. Hundreds of thousands of civilians died. Some estimates suggest even more. Villages were wiped off the map. Families were separated forever. Fields turned into wastelands of water and mud. And the river became something even more terrifying. A weapon of mass destruction, not designed by humans, but triggered by them. After modern engineering advanced, humanity began to gain partial control. Dams were built. Flood management systems improved. Satellite monitoring allowed early warnings. And the river became more predictable. But the fear never fully disappeared, because history leaves scars deeper than water. Elder generations still pass down stories of black floodwaters swallowing homes at night, of children screaming as currents tore through villages, of entire communities vanishing in a single storm. And scientists warn that even today, the danger is not gone. Climate change is altering rainfall patterns. Glaciers are melting. Storms are becoming more extreme, and rivers worldwide are becoming less predictable. The Yellow River is not unique. History is full of deadly rivers. The Mississippi has caused catastrophic flooding in the United States. The Ganges has carried disease and pollution affecting millions. The Amazon hides dangers within its dense, unpredictable ecosystem. And across every continent, rivers have always had two faces: life and death. They give civilization everything it needs, but they can also take it away in a moment. And perhaps that is what terrifies humanity most, because rivers are not static. They move, they change, they breathe like living systems. Psychologists believe this is why humans fear deep water. When we cannot see beneath the surface, our imagination fills the void. Ancient humans standing beside dark rivers at night would have felt completely powerless. A storm upstream could erase everything downstream. And unlike mountains or deserts, rivers are alive in motion, always shifting, always changing, always waiting. Even modern horror films use dark water as a symbol of fear. Because deep in the human mind, water represents both creation and destruction, life and death. The river of death became more than a disaster in history. It became a symbol of humanity's vulnerability. Today, billions of people still live near rivers. Megacities depend on them. Agriculture depends on them. Entire economies depend on them. But scientists warn the future may become more dangerous. Flood events are increasing globally. Extreme rainfall is becoming more common. Sea levels are rising. And human expansion is increasing pressure on river systems. So the question remains, could another river of death appear in the future? Some experts believe it already is happening. Across the world, modern disasters are growing in scale. Pakistan's floods, Europe's river overflows, China's flood management challenges, South America's river basin crises. These are warnings written in water. History has already shown what happens when rivers escape control. Entire civilizations suffer, and sometimes they do not recover. For thousands of years, humans believed rivers were gifts from the gods, and in many ways, they were right. Without rivers, civilization would never exist. But history reveals another truth. The same rivers that give life can also take it away. The Yellow River was not evil. It was nature itself. Powerful, unpredictable, unstoppable. And maybe that is the most terrifying lesson of all. Because even today, as skyscrapers rise and technology advances, humanity still stands beside water, hoping it remains calm. But history whispers a warning beneath every current. One day, the river may rise again.